Hey everybody, Steve Andrews here with CKK Industries, home of knifekits.com and holstersmith.com. Today we're going to be showing you how to make a one-piece, fold-over, taco, whatever you prefer to call it, holster for use outside the waistband, and we are going to be using a paddle mount. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of some of this excess plastic. You don't want to remove too much, but you do want to just make it a little bit easier on yourself so you don't have too much extra plastic to cut off later after you've started forming. And then we're just going to use a square and we're going to mark it, score it rather. And when you score your KYDEX, just a little pro tip, score it at the top. So score it on the side that actually has the texture. And then we're just going to take it over, once we've scored it, to the edge of the table is a good spot for it. And it will snap off. And next we're just going to figure out where we want to put the template on there. And the reason that we're using that template is that way when we form the KYDEX around the molding prop, that allows a spot for your slotted posts to be set in, because if you just stick those right into the KYDEX and you don't have something to pull those away from the real gun, then the first time you put that gun in there, you're going to know it, because you're going to scratch the heck out of it. So what we're doing here is we're just putting blue tape onto the molding prop. Want to get that as neat as you can, as far as you're not worried about what's hanging off the end. You just don't want a bunch of big wrinkles on the slide when you're doing this. Otherwise you'll see those when you form around it. Then we're going to go ahead and tape our template on here. Right, check, make sure we got the right retention plate, which we do. Heat up our plastic. We're going to wait till it's nice and floppy. Temperature, see what we got this time. Looks like about 360, 355. Usually anywhere 320, 380, depending on the plastic you're using, the thickness. The big deal is just make sure it's nice and floppy. If it's got any tension in it at all, you need to heat it some more. So now we're going to put it into our taco press. We want to make sure that that is texture side out. Then we're going to put our molding prop in there, push it down, put our retention plate in there. And then we're just going to use our clamps to clamp it all together. You want to get it nice and snug, pretty tight. This is fine. You don't need a bottle jack or anything to really squeeze onto it. You can get all the definition in the world just doing this. So Once we get it in there and everything all snug down, we'll just wait for it to cool off. And next up, we're just going to draw a rough shape of what we want our holster to look like. Again, this is so that we can take off big pieces of plastic. We'll come back later for the final finish, and we'll use a sander to get the little bit amount, but it is easier to get the larger pieces off with the saw. All right, this one's going to have a sweat guard. So we drew that line across. If there were going to be no sweat guard, once you drew that line across, you just take both sides off. You just cut straight through with your bandsaw. But in this case, we're making a sweat guard. That is definitely a matter of preference. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're going to smooth out the edges, take off a little bit more material, get it to the shape that we want. We're using a Kalamazoo sander grinder here, which we also offer on our websites. All we're doing with our molding prop here is kind of getting an idea if we're getting close to the final size and shape that we want. Then we're going to take it over to our flap wheel so we can get the rough edges off. Want it nice and smooth. If you want to polish it to a mirror finish, you can. Otherwise, just nice and smooth is fine. Completely functional. Some people like to polish these out with a rouge and a polishing wheel to a mirror finish, which looks cool, but remember, this is plastic. It's kind of soft, so it's not going to be too many times of taking it off, laying it down, putting it somewhere, bumping it till that mirror finish is not going to be a mirror finish again anyway. Alright, so we have our template marked on our holster. Now what we're doing is we're just going to mark our paddle so that we can go ahead and drill it. We also mark the holes on our holster. Now, it's not necessary to do this on the holster because you can't really see it in the video, but when the plastic gets pressed on there, it does leave a dimple where the holes are, so you know where to drill. But that's really hard to see, those small indentations on camera. So, and then here we're just using our template. This is another example of what you can use it for, to get the holes where you want them. Since this is a retention holster, that's not absolutely necessary. If you wanted to, you can just draw the two holes. You can free draw them. It just depends on how good you are. You can put them at whatever angle you want, or you can have them straight up and down. Again, this is the beauty of making anything like this, is you're making a handmade, one-of-a-kind holster. So You can do what you want. You can take some artistic liberties. So long as you make a safe holster, that's what matters. Just drill our holes in our holster. And when you drill your retention holes, it's not a bad idea to have your molding prop in there and something in between the two sides of the holster. That just makes it, because later we're going to put the EPDM washers in there to give you some space, and that keeps the holes lined up for when you do that. All right, next up, after we've kind of cleaned things off, we're going to go ahead and put our spacers in there. So we're going to put our slotted post in into our EPDM washers, which is what we're using for retention. Put our finishing washers on and then put our screws in. And then you can tighten and loosen these to get the retention that you want. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and put our paddle on. So we are going to take our slotted post, put them through, and then we are going to take our washers. And what's nice about the washers, stick those on the slotted post, and it keeps the slotted post from falling through. Then we're going to put a finishing washer on here. And put our screws in and tighten them down. And there you have it, folks. A completed holster. Thanks for watching.